Hello everyone, I am Elaine Febrada and I'm going to tackle about the attempt to commit child trafficking, obscene publications and indecent shows, other acts of abuse and remedial procedures under Republic Act number 7610, which is an act providing for stronger deterrence and special protection against child abuse, exploitation, and discrimination, and for other purposes. So we have here, first, is the attempt to commit child trafficking. There is an attempt to commit child trafficking under Section 7 of this Act. First, when the child travels to a foreign country without valid reason therefore, and without any affirmation from the authorities, especially from the Department of Social Welfare and Development, and of course, the child's parents or legal guardian. So, this act is an attempt to commit child trafficking because there is a possibility that if there will be no consent that is being gathered or that is being asked from these authorities, then there is a possibility that the purpose of the travel of the child is an illegal purpose. So a written permit or justification from the person responsible of the child's care is a must. Okay, next. There is also an attempt to commit child trafficking when an individual, agency, establishment, or child-caring institution recruits ladies or couples to bear children for child trafficking reason. Also when doctors, clinic officials, hospitals, or employee, nurse, midwives, local civil registrar, or any other person who simulates birth for the reason of child trafficking is also can be also punishable by law, because it is also an act that can be considered an attempt to commit child trafficking. And lastly, we have when an individual takes part in finding children from where and whom they can offer for the purpose of child trafficking. So when that person or when a person engages in finding finding children among low-income families, among hospitals, clinics, nurseries, and daycare centers, or other child-during institutions who can be offered for the purpose of child trafficking, then that person will also be punishable by law, because that act of that person is also or can also be considered an attempt to commit child trafficking. And all these acts has a corresponding penalty lower 2 degrees than that prescribed for the consummated felony under Section 7 hereof shall be imposed upon the principals of the attempt to commit child trafficking under this act. This penalty can either be prisión correccional or prisión mayor. Prisión correccional, or which can be translated as correctional prison, is a penalty which is 2 degrees lower than reclusión temporal, and the minimum period is defined as between 6 months and 1 day to 2 years and 4 months. Or the prisión mayor, which translates as major imprisonment. This penalty is 2 degrees lower than reclusión perpetua and is defined at Article 76 as being between 6 years and 1 day to 12 years. So that is the corresponding penalty for all these acts or for all these activities. Okay? So our next topic will be about the obscene publications and indecent shows. we all here are familiar, or we all here already know about child pornography, right? And we all know that this is one of the biggest problem that we are facing, or the government is trying to minimize nowadays, is trying to stop. Unfortunately, as what I have seen on TVs and newspapers and other medias, we have a rapidly increasing number of victims of this child pornography. So for now, we have here the actions with regards to this child pornography that is punishable by law. So first we have, if a person who hire or coerce a child to perform in obscene exhibitions and indecent shows. Any person who will hire, who will use, who will employ or persuade or induce a child to perform any obscene exhibitions, any indecent shows, that person will be punishable by law. Whether that would be done on live or in video, still that can be considered a child pornography. If the child is forced to model or is used to model in obscene publications or in pornographic materials, or to sell or distribute the said materials, shall suffer the penalty of prisión mayor in its medium period. Meaning to say, the person responsible of this illegal activity will be imprisoned from 8 years and 1 day to 10 years. Next is, if the child is used as a performer, subject, or seller or distributor, which is that child aging below 12 years old, also that person who hired that child will be punishable by law, with a penalty shall be imposed in its maximum period. Meaning to say, if the medium period will be from 8 years and 1 day to 10 years, the maximum period is, or will be, from 10 years and 1 day to 12 years. Next, any ascendant, guardian, or any person entrusted in any capacity with a child's care might cause and or allow such child to be employed or to participate in an obscene play or show or in any other acts covered by this section will also suffer the penalty of prisión mayor in its medium period. Again, prisión mayor in its medium period, meaning to say, the person responsible of this illegal activity or unlawful acts will be imprisoned from 8 years and 1 day to 10 years. So if you are going to witness, or if you're going to experience any of these activities, then you will be a victim of any of this activity, then you can directly report it to the authorities. Our next topic is the other acts of neglect, abuse, cruelty, or exploitation and other conditions prejudicial to the child's development. First, any person who abuses children or are responsible for other conditions prejudicial to the child's development will suffer the penalty of prisión mayor in its minimum period. Next, any person having in his company or any person who will hire a minor to work in his company, and especially when that minor is aging 12 years or under, or who in 10 years or more is junior in any public place, hotel, motel, beer joint, or similar places like the sauna or any beer houses, any massage parlor, beach, and or other tourist resort or similar places like that. That person will also be punishable by law and will suffer the penalty of prisión mayor in its maximum period. So again, prisión mayor in its maximum period is the person will suffer from 10 years and 1 day to 12 years of imprisonment. And an additional penalty, a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos. So that would be enough for the person to not do the certain illegal activities. So next, any person who shall induce, deliver, or offer a minor to anyone prohibited by this act to keep or have in his company a minor as provided in the preceding paragraph will suffer a penalty of prisión mayor in its medium period and a fine of not less than 40,000 pesos. But if the perpetrator is just the victim's ascendant or step-parent or guardian, then that person will suffer the penalty of prisión mayor in its maximum period, a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos, and the loss of parental authority over the minor. So next, any person or one entrusted with the operation of any public or private place of accommodation, whether for occupancy, for food, for drinks, or otherwise, including residential places, who allows any person to take along with him to such place or places any minor herein prescribed, that person will suffer a penalty of prisión mayor in its medium period and a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos and the loss of the license to operate such a place or establishment. Next, any person who shall use coerce, force, or intimidate a street child to beg or use begging as a means of living. Second, if the person acts as conduit or middleman in drug trafficking, then if that person conduct any illegal activities, then he will be suffering, or that person will be suffering a penalty of prisión correccional in its medium period to reclusión perpetua. For purposes of this act, the penalty for the commission of acts punishable under Articles 248, 249, 262, Paragraph 2, and 263, Paragraph 1 of Act Number 3815 as amended, the revised penal code for the crimes of murder, homicide, other intentional mutilation, and serious physical injuries, respectively, shall suffer the penalty of reclusión perpetua when the victim is under 12 years of age. And the victim of the acts committed under this section shall be entrusted to the care of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. And now let's proceed to the remedial procedures. Let's talk about who may file a complaint. So first, the offended party offended party can file a complaint against those person responsible who are responsible of doing such an unlawful acts, or abusing, or those people who are abusing our minors or our children. The next, the parents or guardians. Then the ascendant or collateral relative within the third degree of consanguinity. Then the officer or social worker or representative of a licensed child caring institution. Also, the officer or social worker of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, the barangay chairman, or at least 3 concerned responsible citizens where the violation occurred. So again, whoever are stated, or these persons or these individuals can file a complaint against those persons who are involved with such an unlawful activity or illegal activities. After such, the offended party shall be placed under the custody of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, pursuant to Executive Order Number 56 Series of 1986. In the regular performance of this function, the officer of the Department of Social Welfare and Development shall be free from any administrative, civil, or criminal liability. Custody proceedings shall be in accordance with the provisions of Presidential Decree Number 603. In addition to the penalty, if the offender is a foreigner, then he shall be deported immediately after service of sentence and forever barred from the entry to the country. So that's the end of the discussion. In order for us all to free ourselves from this what we call abuses, any types or any forms of abuses, we should break the silence. Learn to speak up. If you have seen people, or if you have seen children suffering or being a victim of these abuses, then you should try to help them. Report that case immediately to the authority in order for that exploitation, or for that abuses, for that illegal activities will be stopped. Again, break the silence. This is Haiza Elaine Lopez Febrada, and I hope you have learned something from the discussion. Thank you.